Okay, well, we'll move on and introduce our next speakers here for the 2051 presentation. We have a couple of folks here. Marta Wojcik, who you recognize, obviously, from her position with the Westcott House, but she is also representing the committee, the steering committee of the 2051 initiative, and then also David Bureau, who is the founder and CEO of Future IQ, who is the consulting company assisting in this endeavor. I did grab some stuff off your website, but I'll hold off on that because I'm sure you guys will cover everything we need. So please, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'll let David really explain the process that we launched officially publicly mid-August, but this we got to that point with a lot of preparation, and I have to say it's been such an encouraging process because this came as a coalition of basically residents who wanted to do something positive about productive with our energy, pent-up energy, I suppose, especially after last year and how we felt we were unfairly portrayed on a national level. We all came to a conclusion after talking to many citizens that we really need a process. We really need community building process. We need community engagement as part of it and figure out what is our vision for the community. And I'm particularly grateful to people who have been through processes like that and came on board because they feel like this is the right time, and they share the experiences of the last 25 years of previous planning exercises that were really valuable and are really valuable to this process as well. So David is here to help us come together as a community, and I think one of the most valuable things about Springfield 2051 is that it is truly a coalition and that we are building this over the course of 15 months. So we give ourselves time to really gather and listen and get the pulse on the community through directly from citizens of Springfield. So, David.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you for the opportunity to present or provide a briefing today. And Marta, I just wanted to pick up, you mentioned about listening and engaging with the community. Just to give you an example, at 6:30 this morning, we were talking to the doctors and nurses at the hospital, and we were at Wittenberg University having a session there today, and we're meeting with the BATS.
The BATS tomorrow
morning. So through the course of this, we are hoping or wishing to engage literally thousands of people in high quality conversation. The point of what I want to cover tonight is just to give you a little bit of context. I know many of you are familiar with the project, but I just wanted to sort of fill in some gaps and sort of share with you a little about what we're exploring as we go through it. As Marta said, there's a very strong coalition of partners who are supporting this, including yourselves, obviously. I think that's a real strength to this. I think it communicates a really powerful and important message to the community when there are so many entities that are coming together to support what is at this stage a community-driven process. I think it's a very powerful set of optics for the community. We have a steering committee, which is a really excellent cross-section of people. Again, I think it's a very good messaging about people who are with philanthropic foundations, with various government instrumentalities, the business community and so on. But to talk a little about what the whole Springfield 2051 is, the way I talk about it, it's really got two dimensions that I think are worth sort of talking about and understanding. One is that it's a very intentional community visioning process. So it's a big conversation about what's the aspiration that people here have for the future. If they could kind of wish and dream what they would look for the next generation to have here, what would that be? I think there's some very important elements of community building and community listening to the community and their concerns and their aspirations. That's a lot of what we're involved in at the moment. So the period of the second half of this year, so July through August through until the end of this year, is that visioning conversation. But then we will pivot over the course of the Christmas New Year break. And next year, we're going to be really talking about what I would say is a strategic positioning conversation, really pushing the conversation about where does the Springfield area fit into the larger region? Where does it fit into the Midwest? What's the strategic opportunity? So we're trying to couple together two things here, which is that aspirational community building component, but a really grounded strategy that's drilled into the bedrock of good data and good thinking about where opportunities lie for this community in the future. Well, obviously, we will produce out of that an implementation plan. We're very aligned to seeing a pathway from the visioning to the strategic positioning to them being able to implement. I think that's important to demonstrate to people. And our methodology is, it's really got three big factors to it. One is that it's very future oriented. So we are pushing people, and that's part of that 2051. We are making people or asking people to think a bit further out than they normally would. We also are designing what I would say is a very people-focused approach. And we want the experience of this for people in the community to be very inviting, that they get a chance to come and talk about things that are important to them, but they walk away from every one of those sessions learning something, having some insight about their community, their future, that hopefully is activating and empowering of people. The last component there is obviously data-driven. Now, it's very important that we produce something that is very coherent, is very robust, and is built on very substantial data. Did you want to add anything to that, Mark?
No.
And just perhaps my last couple of slides here is just in terms of a timeline. As I said, this part of this year is really about creating the shared vision. Then we move into that roadmap and then implementation onward. We would hope to have the opportunity to come and be able to brief you on regular intervals through this process. I think there's some very interesting data starting to emerge.
Before you leave that,
Yeah.
if you go back.
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that this city commission will have a change of 3 members. A majority of the city commission will turn over in January of 2026. And 2 of the 4 candidates are here tonight. I would encourage you to work not only with the current city commission, but after the November election, the new members of the city commission. This could be, in my estimation, a very helpful effort on your part to assist them as they move in to take over these chairs.
Without having eyes in the back of my head, I know that 2 of those candidates did attend one of our listening sessions, and we did have some subsequent conversation, and we have planned to follow up on that. I actually think it's very exciting that both you as a sitting members, but also potential new elected members of your council are so keenly interested in this process. Obviously, you're not the only actor. There's the county and all the other components as well. But I think it's very encouraging for the community to see the interest that comes from leadership such as yourself.
Good.
And Chris Wallace is working with us on Thursday. We're going to have session with student athletes at Springfield High. So they are gracious enough to get really involved and ask questions, and we are very grateful.
Great, outstanding.
And I did want to share just some very preliminary data with you. So we do have, we've been gathering data from the listening sessions. We're midway in what we call our think tank process. We had a session on Friday last, we've got a session this Friday. And we've launched a community survey. But we've been asking people, and it was actually one of the great discussions at the university today about what's the sweet spot. So this is that strategic positioning. Where do you really sort of optimize your future? And also asking people how they see the area needs to evolve and transform to take advantage of opportunities. So this is very preliminary, so I'm not going to go into the data, but we're doing a lot of work mapping.
David, you do have some time. So don't feel rushed.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
We do have time.
Okay. So we've been doing a bit of work sort of mapping what's emerging as these themes. So part of what we want to bring to this is, from our side, is we get a lot of input from the community, a lot of words, a lot of conversation. So we try to structure that and feed that back in a way of, here is the core components of what we hear people are talking about. And if you look at this, the blue circles are what the topics that people talk about, the key strategic positioning. And the green topics are the areas that people see there's opportunity to evolve and transform, which empowers or enables those strategic positioning pieces. Just to walk you through this, because I actually think, although it's very preliminary and we're still mapping some more data over this, I think it's starting to see a bit of a picture emerge. So in the upper right there, you'll see a blue dot says transportation location. One of the things people have talked a lot about is how does Springfield leverage the proximity to Columbus, or that position between Dayton and Columbus? And there's that sort of fork in the road of how do you become a sort of a force of your own right and not just get absorbed as a dormitory community to the growth in Columbus. I think that's a very important future splitting strategic discussion. So the notion of regional collaboration and that mobility and connectivity are those sort of components that circle around that. The upper left, agriculture, because you're and I think more broadly, probably agriculture and resources. People talk a lot about the water aquifers here and the quality of the environment. People see that as something that there could be room to leverage. But then coming down in the middle in the lower right, there's a really interesting cluster here of, which I think is super relevant to yourselves and to your staff, the downtown public spaces, the arts and culture, and then the diversity and inclusivity. So people are seeing a very connected set of issues there and talk a lot about the function of public spaces and being able to build and connect community, but also to sort of spur innovation and creativity through arts and culture, and then obviously leveraging into innovation technology. And then there's another whole big component in the upper left there, or middle left, which is about affordability in housing, youth opportunities. You know, a lot of discussion, a lot of, I guess, question about how do you evolve your community to be a place where people thrive. You know, and I think the comments from the university are just so perfect on that. You know, that issue about jobs and opportunity. Please.
I want to encourage you in the area of agriculture,
Yeah.
but also as it marries to advanced aeronautics.
Yeah.
The Global Impact STEM Academy was founded based on ag bioscience. As my friends in the Clark County Farm Bureau put it, the Global Impact STEM Academy is not about cows, plows, or sows. It's about young men and women in white lab coats working on food, fuel, the environment, and fabric. And now we have coupled that at GISA, Global Impact STEM Academy, with the whole advanced aeronautics at the Springfield Airport. So we're looking at not only potential careers and jobs coming out of the advanced aeronautics, the National Center, which is at our airport, but also combining it with ag bioscience and the potential impact of that whole thing. And so you've got schools preparing a pipeline of workers in those two areas in cooperation with, hopefully, Wittenberg, some of the other higher ed institutions. So I would hope that you take a look at that, because that pipeline is built and we have students coming through that pipeline as we meet tonight.
Yeah, and thank you for raising that. And that is a lot of what's embedded in that innovation and technology set of components there. And I think there's going to be a lot more substance to these discussions. I'm really sort of reflecting here really the raw data from community, sort of fairly kind of light input at this stage, but we're going to be digging deeper into these as we go. But there was an additional piece of data I wanted to share with you from the community survey. So again, very preliminary data. You know, we hope to have over 1,000 people complete this, and these will be what I call high quality data points. So we'll know who the people are. Literally, it's a real person took it, but we'll know where they live. You know, sort of we've segmented the county and the city, and but also a lot about their age and so on. But this is very preliminary. But it really jumped out at me when I was looking at this data, and I think this was last night when I downloaded this. We asked this question about how would you describe the current community dynamics of Springfield, and I know this is something you deal with in a very tangible fashion, but but it's unusual to see a community sort of biased or skewed towards the number of people there saying that they feel the community dynamic is very divided. In fact, there was nobody who's picked the +5, which is very united. I think that points to the importance of this initial period of 4 or 5 months that we're doing, which is a lot of community building, a lot of community conversation. You know, we're meeting with as many different groups to get voices involved in, and really inviting people to think about where does the shared future lie? What's the shared vision? And so by the time we get to January, we will have what will be emerging will be a very strong notion of a shared vision that people are buying in. And that's directly addressing that dynamic. And I think that's only healthy for a community to move beyond the sense of a division and move to what is a sense of a shared vision for the future. So that, I think, is a very important layer of what we're doing. That sets the stage, I think, for them people to be invited into those more strategic and robust conversations. That's difficult to have when people feel that the community is a little at odds with each other. But I just thought I'd share this with you, that, you know, that this is coming through in the data in this way. That may change, right? So it is only preliminary. I suspect it won't change that much, to be honest. You know, having seen a lot of these sort of results, the first blush often is a pretty good reflection. But I did want to just share that with you, and we'll give you updates as we go through the process. Thank you.
Okay. Is there other comments from commissioners?
Yes, I have a few. Thank you guys for the work you're doing in the community. I've been able to attend one session. I have another one scheduled. I was curious, I have a few notes here. I was curious about, it seems like I'm seeing the opportunities often to attend these events, to do a survey. Can you talk a little bit about how extensive you're working to connect with the community? How many meetings and what have you held, and what's coming up so that people can be a part of this also?
Yeah, so David, you pitch in on that, but we very intentionally created a network of about 60 members of advisory group, and we are looking at all the community sectors, trying to engage people from these sectors. And then we have this assures that if I don't know, you know, the small steering committee doesn't know how to engage certain population, there's someone on that advisory group who can. And that's how we've been scheduling these listening sessions. So we have identified groups to work with, and we ask, for example, you know, last night we had a session with Fathering Strong and Promise Neighborhood. John Upshaw has been very active, and he's been tremendous to recruit various residents in a community. He also helped with youth service providers. We had a session in August. We try to schedule, basically when David is in town, we try to schedule 3 or 4 meetings, which is, you know, an hour and a half. It's pretty intense.
That's per day, 3 or 4
per day.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's pretty intense, and it's but that's just, it's been just great to see that people are willing, and they are very honest in the conversations. And of course, with David's experience and going through same sets of questions, he can gather the data that is really powerful. So we encourage you guys, if you have any ideas, people keep coming to us. Have you thought about this group? Or have you thought about this person to reach out and talk to? So we continue to, you know, engage people. And in October, we will have community visioning sessions that are even bigger. Gatherings that people will have ability to respond to some of the initial ideas for the scenarios for the future. So that should be quite interesting.
And if I could add one thing to that as well, I wanted to, let me just jump forward a little bit here. We do have a dedicated project website. So the URL is springfield2051.com. And that is our go-to resource. So we are posting sessions there. People can register there. We've got a whole bunch of videos that we've taken with people talking about their sort of hopes for the future. And as the survey results start to come through, we'll be posting all that there. So we are attempting to make it very transparent and very open, right? And people will be able to go in and be able to filter the data and look at it for themselves. I think that's a principle that's very important. And so the door's open. We expect to engage in a meaningful way with thousands of people through this process. Hopefully, I think 1,000 people taking the survey to me is a low bar in this community. But we are having, where I'm here a week every month, and we're just packing every week with as many sessions as we can feasibly do.
I know
Go ahead.
I know I find it impressive about how immersive you guys have been and proactive in reaching out to the community. Another point I wanted to make, your connection slide up there. As a commissioner, this is very reflective of what I hear and hear in our meetings, plus out there in the community. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're getting it to be on point with some of the issues that we have, and then how we can improve it and what people find is important to improve their lives in our community, and to address and say that last slide about the work we need to do to bring folks back together and connect our community together. I think that is something, as leadership in the community, we can definitely work to do a better job with, and being engaged with the community and create opportunities to meet with citizens more. As I know, I've spoke to the city manager about creating town halls. But I think this project is also a little piece that's going to help with that, increase citizens' voices and feel like they're connected together. It's just creating those opportunities to bring them together, and you guys are doing that. So thank you.
I add one thing to that too, is that my take on this, and going on the outsider, right? So I just have a slightly different slant on it, but I do really think, if I look at, from what I'm hearing from people, and I look at the data that we've been exploring as we've been doing some of our situational analysis, but also in the think tank, I think you're a community that is at a very interesting inflection point. And so for me, there's as many headwinds as there are tailwinds. But you've at least got strong tailwinds. And I think people sense that. To me, there's a sense in the community that maybe this started in, sort of unfortunate circumstance or unexpected circumstance, but people are really hungry for this conversation. And I think I find people are leaning into it in a very positive way, in a very hopeful way.
First of all, thank you for doing this work, and thank you for coming tonight. I think this is not only important work, but extremely timely work, as you mentioned. I think it couldn't come at a better time, because we do have not only some challenges, but I believe we have some incredible opportunities, and we need to explore those together. One thing that you didn't mention that I know you covered the other day at Rotary was, this is not only open to the people of the city of Springfield, it's open to the entire area of Springfield. Would you expand on that a little, please?
Yeah, we were very conscious. We were very conscious not to draw lines, and so we're broadly calling it the Springfield area, and geographically that's probably approximates Clark County. But there are obviously a lot of people who have skin in the game, who are stakeholders in this community, people who work elsewhere and live here, or live here and work elsewhere, and so on, right? So we're opening it up so that people who feel that they have a connection to this community, or that they have something that they want to contribute, are able to participate. We are able to filter the data though, and you can look at it by people who live inside or outside the city or the county and so on, because I think it is important for people to be able to see that differential. But this is an invitation to be part of shaping the future of this area. And obviously the city is the epicenter, but there's an important ecosystem that radiates around it.
Thank you so much for the work you're doing. We look forward to the results and all your effort. And I think I was surprised not to see a slide up there for this, but this is one way that people can access the survey. This is
Yes,
the
and
way,
could we
right?
leave copies
Absolutely.
for tonight. Yeah,
And take
and-
some with you, pass them out to folks. This is the way to get entire community input.
Yeah, and as we mentioned to listening session participants, if you can talk to people to emphasize the importance of it, because it is it involves some thinking and about 10 minutes of your time. It's not super quick, but that's why we want thoughtful responses. So then David has the data to support it, and the goal is at least 1,000 people. So we are probably at 200 maybe. So yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for your work. You have more, Crystal? Go ahead.
Yes, I certainly do. So I just wanted to say, and repeating what they've said, thank you for this work. But what I want to encourage from the community, from my perspective, is I don't care what your thoughts are, but this is now the time. I probably shouldn't have said it like that because somebody's probably going to parse only that out, right? But whatever your thoughts may be, please share them. This is your time.
Yes.
Whether you think somebody's going to agree with you or whether you may think, well, they're not going to care, please, just everybody fill this out so that we can get real data, so that we can start to get to what we can do differently as a city to make sure that everybody feels included and everybody feels safe, right? So I just really want to say thank you for doing this. And if you have oodles and goodles of these, I would love to take a lot of them from you.
Absolutely. I'll
Just so
make
that
sure
we can
you
get
have.
them handed out.
Yeah, we talk to people. If you go to church, if you go to any gathering, just take
Yes.
them. And we also distribute them online. So that website has a direct link to it on a homepage. And we send out emails to everyone who is willing to be on a mailing list. So
And I just shared it right here. I'm going to say it. I just shared it on Facebook sitting right here because it's super important, and it ends on October 30th. So, that's not a huge window to get everyone. So I want to get excited about this and get other people excited about getting this done.
thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to conclude the informal work session?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.